Welcome to the Minneapolis Rowing Club Informational River Tour. This will show you the highlights as you head downstream and upstream of our beautiful Pool 1 of the Mississippi River. This will show you from the downstream, the South Stream Ford Bridge, all the way up as you go upstream to the top of the river by Bohemian Flats Park. So let's get started. Let's zoom in. This is using Google Earth, which is a great way to see things. And I'm going to come in right here at the Minneapolis Rowing Club Boathouse and Docks, located at 2968 West River Parkway. There is no parking down by the boathouse, only temporary parking for people that need to haul things in and out. So access is actually limited on the access road, which comes down here and switches back at this water treatment area and heads on down to the riverside for our boathouses. There is parking under the Lake Street Bridge here, but we do not recommend you park there because there has been several windows smashed as cars are parked there, unfortunately. There's parking up here by the Danish Center on the road. We do not park in the Danish Center parking lot. And then there's also parking on Lake Street and parking here along the River Parkway. As you get down to the Minneapolis Rowing Club, you'll see that there's actually two boathouses. There's what we call the North Boathouse and the South Boathouse. It's also called the Big Boathouse, the Little Boathouse, the New Boathouse, the Old Boathouse. But as we move forward, it's basically the North Boathouse and the South Boathouse. And then we also have two docks, the North Dock and the South Dock, or the Big Dock and the Small Dock. The Big/North Dock is typically used to launch our 8s and our 4s, and the South Dock is used to launch our singles and doubles. Most private boats also launch from the South Dock. As you launch, you should always point your boat upriver. So your bow ball should be facing upriver or to the right in this picture. So you'll come down, you put your boat in, the bow ball will be upriver, and you will launch upriver. If you're going to go upriver, you'll need to launch, and then you'll cross over to continue upriver. If you're going downriver, you'll launch, and you'll turn around. So let's do that downriver tour. A couple things to note. All of the bridges are labeled, and there's some other highlights. And this red line is the typical path that the showboat, the Mississippi Queen, will take. So it's good to note where this is, because where this is and there's a showboat there, you should not be. So the first bridge as we head down on this beautiful stretch of river is the Lake Street Bridge or Marshall Avenue Bridge. There's a single middle abutment. So as you head down, you're going to be between the abutment and the shore. You'll go down and continue row. There's some shallow parts in here. You don't want to be anywhere near this cove as you come up to Longfellow Beach. This can be a pretty shallow area, so sometimes you might have to come out a little bit. Let me talk a little bit about the river before we go any farther. You can think about the river as divided into a third. The third here, as you're heading upriver, or the St. Paul 1/3 river. Many times we'll say this is the St. Paul side of the river. You want to think about this as a third. And as you're heading upstream, you want to be in this 1/3 of the river. The middle part of the river, the 1/3 middle part, is really the gray zone, neutral zone. Some people call it the kill zone. You want to stay out of that at as much as possible, unless you need to move over for the showboat or for some other specific reason. Normal traffic pattern is as you're heading upstream, you're on the St. Paul side of the river of that 1/3. And then as you're heading downstream, you're on this 1/3 of the river, or the Minneapolis side. That's usually what we call it. So we're heading down on this 1/3 side of the river, heading past Longfellow Beach. We'll go past the caves. You can see this showboat when it hits just before the caves. If it's continuing downriver, it's going to go from this side of the river and cross and go this. So be aware of that. There's also showboats that actually come up from St. Paul, and this is how they would go up the river. Showboats have right of way. As we head down to Ford Dam, this is where you'll want to stop, turn, cross, and then turn to go upriver. Where you turn course, you don't want to get anywhere near Ford Bridge. Depending on the flow of the river, of how fast the flow is when you're going to determine how far up you should turn around. Our safety metrics, which shows the different safety color levels and what you can row, depending on the conditions of water temperature and flow, will tell you where you should be turning around. The faster the river, the farther upstream you'll want to turn before Ford Dam. But if it's a normal, nice, level, safety green day, you'll come down here, cross, and go upriver. As you're heading upriver, the shallow cove area you want to avoid. It's really easy to be sucked into shore, but you'll just want to go past that shallow area. There's a ton of deadheads. You will hit one. And as you're coming upstream, if that showboat is coming, you can see here they're kind of on the St. Paul 1/3 side of the river. So as you come up, if the showboat is coming, you'll want to be in the middle part. This is an exception to the normal traffic pattern, only as the showboat is here. Most of the time, that showboat will not be there, but it's important to know when it is. The other thing about this red line, they use the same path going down the river as up the river. So if they come down on this side and they happen to turn around here, they're going to come up this way. So being in the kind of gray zone while that showboat goes by is important. Lake Street Bridge, again, a single abutment in the middle. You'll want to be between abutment and shore. This, be really aware of where the showboat is going here. You can see that it also crosses a river right across from MRC, heading over towards the St. Paul side. What the showboat is doing is following the traditional channel of the river, or the deepest part of the river. So it's vital that it follows its path, and we have a little bit more latitude. And again, they have right away. They cannot turn as fast as we can. So be aware of that. As you come across from MRC, the MRC zone, because of all the traffic that happens in here, is a no power zone. So be careful as you're doing your pieces to make sure and slow down as you head past MRC. The next thing to think about just up from MRC is a submerged lock. We call this the old lock or the meekered lock. You want to avoid this area. Right here is the googly eyes. It has that outflow that has those eyes. I think now it looks like the Cookie Monster. You want to make sure there is a little buoy here, but you want to be out from it. This is a top place where our boats get damaged. Please avoid the old lock. Sometimes you can see it. Most of the time, it's very hard to see. So no, right after googly eyes, you should be getting out a little bit from the old lock. Next, you'll head to the railroad bridge. For club boats, I want you always going through the center span. There is some space over here, and I know some private boats go over here, but there can be rocks. It can get very shallow. Please go through the center span as you're heading upstream on the railroad bridge. Then we get to a beautiful part of the river. Eagles, herons. The next bridge is the Franklin Avenue Bridge. It has 2 abutments. You'll want to use the center span on here too. This has tons of rocks. You will damage your boat. So go through the center span going upstream on the Franklin Bridge. There's a short time until you hit the I-94 bridge. It also has 2 abutments. Going upstream, you want to be in the middle span. And then we'll head into the curve and the University of Minnesota Boathouse. This also is a high traffic area. You want to power down going past the University of Minnesota Boathouse as well. Next, we head into the big curve and start heading into Bohemian Flats, and by the U of M, the Washington Avenue Bridge. 2 abutments. Going upriver, you go through the center span. This has a lot. You can see how shallow it is right here. Just a lot of debris. You will not be able to go through there. And then you're by Bohemian Flats. This is where the showboats dock, and this is the best place to turn around. In fact, for club boats, I am saying you should turn around here unless you're with a coach. You can continue up through Dinkytown Greenway Bridge, but again, club boats, this is the place you should be turning around. Just to show you what's up past this, there's a 10th Avenue Bridge, a 35W Bridge, and then the actual dam and locks. You would never go past this point. And again, for club boats, unless you're with a coach, turn around here. As we head down, a couple things around definitely on this Minneapolis side, many times there's fishermen all along here. There can be a fisherman anywhere, but there tends to be fishermen along here and by I-94. So as we head back downstream, the Washington Avenue Bridge, again, there's 2 abutments. And on this one, on going downstream, you'll go between the abutment and the shore. So you'll be heading down here. You'll want to mind the river here, and you want to, especially as you're going downstream, don't be tempted to cross through here. Please stay on that third of the river over there and make that curve. We'll come along by the university again. Heading down to I-94 bridge, there's an abutment. You go between the abutment and the shore as you're heading downstream on I-94. And quickly you'll be hitting the Franklin Avenue Bridge. Here you go through the center span, but again on that third of the Minneapolis side of the river. They're in that beautiful section of the river. We hit the railroad bridge. You want to go between the abutment and the shore on the railroad bridge as you're heading downriver. You'll go by the white sand beach. And then you'll be heading back into the Minneapolis Rowing Club docks area. Again, no power pieces. If you're continuing through, make sure and power down and then go ahead and get back into your piece. As you're landing, you'll want to come past the docks, turn so that your bow ball is upriver and land if you're doubles or singles on the small dock and the big dock for the 8s and the 4s. That's a quick tour. Hope you enjoyed it.